Ever wondered how life insurance fits into your financial plan? Or why someone would buy it for a child? No? Me neither. Until I became a life insurance convert, that is. I'm Kathleen O'Hagan, digital content strategist and writer at Serenia Life and host of the Kinder Way podcast. I'm also a married mom with a mortgage, try saying that 5 times fast, navigating the same financial ups and downs as many Canadians today. So stick around. Let's figure out this financial stuff together, one episode at a time. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Kinder Way podcast. Today, I'm talking movies. So, if like me, you were a fan of Gwyneth Paltrow back in her pre-Goop days, you probably remember some of her amazing movies from the 90s. One that's always stuck with me is Sliding Doors, the film that follows 2 parallel versions of the life of a young woman in a not-so-great relationship. One where she catches the train, and one where she doesn't. Ring a bell? If not, I definitely recommend giving it a watch. It is such a good movie. I've always loved this whole realm of what ifs. Maybe that's because I know firsthand how one decision can totally change your path. Like how my life would have been so different if I hadn't spent several years teaching English on the other side of the world. But sometimes those life-changing decisions aren't big at all. They can be as seemingly insignificant as getting on a train or deciding to buy coverage for a critical illness. And not to get too heavy here, but this is something I genuinely think about a lot, especially now that Serenia Life offers critical illness insurance. Because here's the thing. Even in our land of universal healthcare, a serious illness can still completely derail your finances if you're not prepared. Treatment or medications that aren't covered, time off work, extra care, all those things add up fast. You might have seen those memes floating around that say the average middle to upper middle class North American is way closer to being broke than to being a billionaire. As depressing as that message is, it's not wrong. One major curveball, and suddenly you're choosing between paying the mortgage or scrambling to keep a roof over your head. For those of us who live in relative comfort, memes like that can feel like an unwanted reality check. But for me, they just reinforce how important it is to plan for the what ifs. And that's exactly what critical illness insurance is designed for. Now, if you're not familiar with this product, here's the quick version. It's coverage that gives you a one-time tax-free payout if you're diagnosed with a serious illness. Of course, the exact illnesses covered vary by insurer, but at its core, the purpose is the same, to give you money when you need it most. And that money, it's flexible. You can use it to cover travel or accommodations if you need treatment out of town, to make modifications to your home, to hire a caregiver for yourself or your children, or even just to replace lost income while you take the time to recover. Basically, it's designed to give you options at a time when everything else feels out of your control. So, let's imagine we're watching a modern version of Sliding Doors. We'll even use Gwyneth's character's name from the original, Helen. In this version, Helen sits down with her financial advisor who tells her about critical illness insurance. At 35 years old, she could get $50,000 in coverage for about $44 a month. For an extra $32, she could add a feature that gives her all her money back if she never needs to use it and decides to cancel before the coverage ends. In Universe A, Helen buys the coverage. A few years later, she's diagnosed with cancer. She and her husband Jack are devastated, but they're also relieved to have that $50,000 in tax-free cash. It helps them make the mortgage payments while she's off work, and it even gives them the freedom to explore alternative treatments and naturopathic care to ease the side effects of her chemo. After months of treatment, Helen gets the incredible news that her cancer is gone. Slowly, she and Jack start talking about the future again, and through it all, they never had to sell their home, drain their savings, or borrow money to make ends meet. In Universe B, Helen skips the coverage. The same diagnosis hits, but this time without the financial cushion of critical illness insurance. With her income gone, she and Jack can't afford the extras that might make chemo more bearable. 1 month in, she starts a crowdfunding campaign to help cover their expenses, which adds even more stress at the worst possible time. Eventually, they can't keep up with the mortgage and decide to downsize, only to find that smaller homes cost just as much as their larger pre-COVID place did. So they sell and move into a rental. The financial pressure strains their relationship, and even after Helen recovers, life remains tough. A few months later, the marriage ends, and Helen is left to start over. Of course, Helen's story could have played out in 100 different ways, but when you look at what she lost in Universe B compared to what she protected in Universe A, and then factor in the option to pay for a feature to get all of her money back if she were to never use the coverage, well, to me, critical illness insurance just makes sense, especially when you consider Universe C, where Helen buys the coverage with that extra money back feature, but never gets a cancer diagnosis at all. She and Jack continue to live in comfort and go on to have 2 kids, 1 dog, and a small travel addiction over the next couple of decades. Life has its usual ups and downs, but they never face a serious illness that could throw their finances into chaos. At age 65, she retires and decides to cancel her coverage and gets all the money she invested over the past 30 years back. A nice sum of about $27,000, which they put towards buying a cottage, a dream they'd had since their early years together. Now that's definitely my favorite universe. But when you consider how unpredictable life can be, the planner in me says, why wouldn't you invest in financial protection for all those what ifs? And it can't get any better than getting your money back if you don't end up needing to use your coverage. It's like the complete opposite of if you don't use it, you lose it. And yes, I'll be sitting down with my Serenia Life advisor soon to see where this type of coverage fits into my family's financial plan. I definitely don't want to experience my own version of Universe B. All right, it's that time where I sprinkle a little bit of kindness into the episode. So here goes. After some stressful communications, or should I say lack of communications, with my son's school this past August, I reached out to my neighbor, who happens to be a teacher, to get her take on what was going on, as well as some advice on how to approach the issue that was causing me, not my son, a lot of back to school jitters. She kindly popped over right then and there to get the details, and then gave me some really great advice, which I took and ended up getting the result I wanted. If she hadn't taken that moment to hear me out and give me some insider tips, things may have turned out very differently. During a time when many of us don't really know the people who live around us, I feel really lucky to have a neighbor I can count on, whether it's for the little things, like borrowing lime juice, or the big things, like helping de-escalate a situation that was causing me major stress. A big thank you to her if she's listening. What about you? If you have a moment of kindness to share, feel free to pop it in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Have a question or an idea for a future episode? Email me anytime at podcast@serenialife.ca. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and hosted by me, Kathleen O'Hagan. Video and audio edits by Teresa Moscardo. And sponsored by Serenia Life Financial, the kinder way to do life insurance.